Hello there, people of the internet. I'm still working on getting a proper camera setup for out here, so the camera is a little lower than I would like it to be. This right here is the new gun range, and we're going to go ahead and start making videos out here the best that I can. Very, very difficult to get out here. I've actually made a full video talking about this place and where it is and why it's difficult to get out here, but if you want to help support me in my endeavors of actually getting out here and making content, then links to Patreon and Utreon are below, or I have merchandise. I sell t-shirts, or you can do a one-time donation on the t-shirt page. All of that would definitely be very helpful. Whenever I was coming out here and debating on what firearms I was going to bring out here, I was unsure on what it is I was going to bring out here, and a lot of that had to do with the fact that I have to trudge through like waist-deep water and swamps and whatnot in order to get out here. There's no way the Cougar is making it out here. Like, if I had a Jeep, the Jeep wouldn't make it out here. I'd need something with like a snorkel to get out here. The only way for me to get out here is to walk. So the things that I would have on person are things that I would have to carry with me. So I started thinking practically, if I was in a situation to where I had to pick some things, like what would I practically most likely pick for my capabilities and for the purposes of what it is that I'm doing. And I decided to go ahead and go with some 9mm. So actually I showed these off on the last video. These are literally all the things that I have out here to record with because of the restrictions of walking out here. But I decided to go ahead and go with some 9mm. Simply because the ammunition for these is powerful enough to put on a good show and to have some fun with. It's a decent power round. One 15-grain projectile out of this carbine going probably about 1,400 or so feet per second, approximately, somewhere around that ballpark. But yeah, this right here is a relatively decently powerful round, but it's not overly expensive, and funds are really tight right now. And making content is going to be a little bit on the difficult side for a little while. So I'm going to try my best for you guys though. But I decided to go ahead and go with 9mm simply because I have a 9mm carbine. This right here is going to be the rifle variant of the things that I bring out here. I can only bring one long gun at a time since I have to trudge through so much swamp and whatnot. And I went ahead and I brought myself a 9mm handgun. This way I only have to bring one kind of ammunition, and the ammunition is not very expensive. It's easy to find. I can get my hands on it, make videos with it, etc., etc. So from a practical purpose, 9mm is probably what I would end up bringing anyway, just for the area that I'm in and the things that I might potentially have to deal with. If this was a situation where I was focused on, well, things that didn't revolve around me fighting off other people who might be armed with something a little bit better than a 9mm carbine, like for example, walking through the woods to get out here. Or maybe it's a situation like whenever I was living up in North Florida and we had that big hurricane, and I was in that survivalist situation and we had like no power and no resources for like 2 weeks straight. And I was using literally this right here to put meat on the table. It's just a really good, cheap, capable option for the things that need done, which don't involve having to fend off other humans. There are situations where having something like this would come in handy that don't involve you having to defend yourself. So I've only got a couple of rounds inside of this particular carbine because I have to be very conservative with my ammunition. I don't have a whole lot of it. Let's go ahead and send a couple of rounds downrange. I actually have a couple of ammo boxes. There's just piles and piles of empty ammo boxes laying all over the place. So these are going to be my targets. Yeah, that's kind of what I'm leaning towards. That's one of the good things about a big public range like this. This is a public range, by the way. This is not mine. And there's just brass everywhere. That's a reloader's dream. I'm definitely going to go through and collect a bunch of this brass before I head out of here, and that'll be a little bit more weight that I have to carry back, but it'll be worth it because reloading brass is much more cost effective in my particular situation. So I'm going to send some lead downrange. I have no idea how much I actually have in here. 3 to 5 rounds, somewhere in that ballpark. And I just have a couple of empty boxes out there that I'm going to send flying into the air. There's one of them. Wow, that actually really flew into the air. 9mm, it might be a handgun cartridge, but that's enough power to put something down. Let's hit another box, shall we? Oh wow, look at that. This really sends those things flying. That is awesome. Let's find another one. out of a, oh boy, out of a carbine like this, 9mm is a capable round within like 100 to 150 yards. You should be able to put things down. As a matter of fact, with this literal carbine, I did 9mm accuracy testing on the YouTube channel. You can go watch it. And I got like a 3.5-inch group approximately, if memory serves me correctly, at about 100 yards. So definitely a capable platform. So if I was in a situation where I had to pick only one set of things, I'd go with the 9mm carbine and probably a 9mm handgun. With my lack of eyesight and my lack of capabilities, I'm really not all that accurate out beyond like 200 yards or so, and I can still put down some pretty good sustained fire with a 9mm carbine at that 200-yard mark. And well, with the 9mm, I get compatibility between my primary and my secondary. If I had the setup, then I would even get magazine compatibility as well. I get ammunition compatibility. 9mm is very inexpensive, not quite as inexpensive as, say, 22 long rifle, but it's definitely inexpensive in comparison to rifle cartridges. I can get probably about 3 shots of 9mm for every 1 round or so of 5.56, especially right now with everything that's going on in the world. So I see it as a really good Goldilocks area between power, cost, size, and weight, and capabilities at distance. So yeah, let's go ahead and send some more lead downrange. As a matter of fact, like I said before, I made a whole video talking about 9mm at a distance, and I think at 200, might even be 300 yards, you have to get quite a ways out there before you reach the same energy transfer that you do from a 22 long rifle at the muzzle. And people say 22 long rifle can handle basically anything from a close range. So by that logic, 9mm should be able to handle it as well. I've got a couple of rounds inside of our handgun right here. Let's go ahead and send a couple of these rounds downrange. If I was in a situation, oh yeah, I forgot this thing hits a little bit low. If I was in a situation kind of like I am right now, where my resources and whatnot are incredibly limited, and I had to only pick one particular cartridge to do everything, this is actually exactly what I've done before. I would go with 9mm. It kind of reminds me of the old Western frontier days, where people would go with either 44 Henry rimfire or 4440 in both their primary lever action and their secondary revolver that they would have on their hip. This way they can have the same ammunition for both their platforms. I think that they called that the gunfighter setup. Although in this particular case, I'm not planning on gunfighting anybody. I would just be using the 9mm for practical applications, like I did for the hurricane that hit Florida not too terribly long ago. All right, let me try that again, and a little bit higher. There we go. Well, I nailed it that time, but it didn't go flying up into the air like the last one did. One really, really good argument that I could see if people could only pick one cartridge is 22 long rifle. Even though I have severe lacking resources, this box of 8 rounds or 50 rounds of 22 long rifle only cost me about $8 versus the 50 rounds of 9mm, which cost me about twice as much. So I could have twice as much ammo of 22 long rifle than I could with 9mm, but in my personal opinion and experience, 9mm is dramatically more capable of a round than 22 long rifle, especially if we're talking out at, well, beyond 100 yards or so. But that being said, 22 long rifle is still a fanatically good round, and you could have both a rifle and a handgun in it. If I had myself a 22 long rifle handgun and a 22 long rifle, I definitely would not feel under-equipped, but I would definitely prefer the 9mm. Speaking of 22 long rifle, this right here is my Henry Survival 22 long rifle. It's basically an AR-7 copy or clone. I'm going to go ahead and send a couple of 22 long rifle rounds downrange because I have the ammunition out here and can afford it. Let's do it. I wonder how much these boxes are going to jump in comparison to the 9mm. Like, I'm going to hit them with 22 long rifle. We'll see if they bounce up in the air or not. Oh, come on, that was pathetic. Well, I'm hitting them, but they're not doing very much. That's the power difference between the 9mm with like close to 500 foot-pounds of energy on target and the 22 long rifle, which has about 175 if memory serves me correctly. Well, I mean, I'm hitting them. They're just not doing very much. Not like the 9mm was. But even then, 22 long rifle is still a fun time. This right here is definitely a good economic plinker. Okay, well, I think that I have beaten this video into submission. I got to get myself a better camera stand setup because there's no way in hell I'll be able to survive leaning over like this the entire time. As a matter of fact, I might move this platform right there and stand in this hole. That might be what I do. Thanks for watching, folks. I appreciate your time. Like, subscribe, share. Description below has a link to all sorts of stuff. Go check it out. If you have any suggestions, I'm all ears, because I am absolutely winging it at this point, trying to make content and keep things up with the YouTube channel. I will see you guys on the next video. Been a little while since I've done this. Bonnie and Clyde be damned. Poor man's Garen. It's a shame that bolt-action shotguns aren't more mainstream.